Neshoba County Fair. And kicking off the show today, we got a great program on tap for you, but kicking us off, Mississippi's Insurance Commissioner, my good friend Mike Chaney. Morning, Mike. Good to see you.
Good morning, Gerard.
Just heard you speaking there in the pavilion. Always enjoyed that, informing Mississippians about exactly what your department does. And a lot of folks don't know, just start with this, that your department is responsible for the Fire Academy.
That we are, and I tried to tell folks this morning that the Fire Academy trains about 16,000 people a year. We go out to the cities and actually have virtual classes, and we actually own hand in a lot of the cities. And what does this do for you? It protects your life, one, and protects your property. But the main thing that most people want to hear about is it lowers your insurance rates.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's a big deal for a lot of folks.
16,000, that's amazing.
It's a lot of people that come through. We've got 13,000 volunteer firemen, almost 14,000. And we have to provide them with equipment, and it's always a challenge, Gerard, to make certain that you have the money. So my goal is to get a permanent funding base for the Fire Academy and for the Rural Fire Truck Program, which protects lives. And we're working on it. I think we're very close.
Right. All right, so let's talk insurance for a minute. Your department regulates all categories of insurance. Is that correct? So
we regulate. I told the folks this morning at the fair that we touch everybody's life even before they're born until after they die.
Yeah.
Go on to paradise, because that's usually health insurance when the mother's pregnant.
Yep.
Involves insurance, and when you die, it's usually burial insurance. So,
yeah.
And everything in between that, life insurance, health insurance, car insurance, you name it, we cover it.
Wow. So health insurance is a major expense for most people, certainly those that have private health insurance, whether it's being provided by their employer through a group coverage or it's individual in the individual market, I should say. Either way, those costs are a material amount of someone's monthly expenses. Where do you see it going from here with respect to rates, and what's the possibility that we might have some new carriers setting up shop here in Mississippi?
Well, let me go backwards on this. I've got several carriers that have applied on the health side to come in and provide insurance. We've got some of the what we call the blues that are associated with the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association that are coming in, and we've actually have approved 3 of those to come in beginning in January of 2022. In addition to that, we've got a host of new companies we've approved to write insurance on the Gulf Coast, and that's because that's kind of become vanilla now because we've got that problem pretty well covered.
Yeah.
Rates are fairly decent on the Gulf Coast, except for flood, and the Risk 2.0 that's coming in September from the federal government will help us solve some of those problems. And out of the 63,000 policies that NFIP has in the state, 10,000 of those policies will get a decrease, and 30,000 will have small increases up and down, not a lot of money involved. And in addition to that, we've got the private sector that also covers a lot of the people on the Gulf Coast and around the state. Now, so the question is, what are we doing about health insurance, and what do you do? The problem that the Lieutenant Governor and I have talked about this along with several of the other leaders in the state. The person that's making even fairly decent money, almost $100,000 between he and his wife, or his wife and her spouse, can hardly afford insurance because health insurance is over $1,000 a month for a couple.
I ain't seen it that cheap, to be honest with you.
I've tried to be on the conservative side, and that's a lot of chunk that comes out of your paycheck, in addition to what the federal government takes in taxes. So we've looked at ways to lower cost, although I don't regulate health costs, but we do that by working on networks and being innovative in what we do. And some of the new drugs that health insurance companies won't cover, we try to get them to cover them simply because they reduce the long-term cost of having somebody go in the hospital. So it's a never-ending battle, and you fight with companies trying to make money and pay big salaries. And if somebody pays a premium on health insurance, they expect something in return.
Yeah, and that's just a widespread criticism of the insurance companies. But you also know, Commissioner, by the same token, there are a lot of folks that are subscribers that aren't totally honest with the insurance companies either.
They are. You got people, they'll sign up. Affordable Care Act, when it first started, we had people that had been putting off surgery for years and years and years, and they would sign up on the Affordable Care Act, keep it 3 months, get the surgery, and then cancel it.
Yeah.
And we went through a lot of that for 2 years, but that's about stopped. We've been able to cover a lot of those problems. But health insurance is going to be with us for a long time. The insurance department does not control the health care costs from the health care provider. I'm talking about the hospitals or the doctors. So the only thing that keeps prices low is the insurance company in between the consumer and the provider, because they negotiate rates on the with the provider. And they always want more, and we've had hospitals come in and talk to the department and say, look, we got to have more money. Medicaid, if they pay you $1 for a procedure, Medicaid might pay you 92% of what Medicare pays. We need 160% from the insurance company. So they want $1.60 for every dollar they get on Medicare.
And so, 92% of what Medicare pays, which is still less than what private pays by a fair amount. So
it's a never-ending battle to make certain that we can, and that affects your premium. So that's a pretty big deal for us.
Well, it is. So we got the Democrats in Washington. I read this morning that the Progressive Caucus is mad because they don't feel like they're pushing hard enough for the Medicare for All program. Actress Susan Sarandon is actually going public and blasting AOC and the squad for not working harder to get Medicare for All passed.
Well, I didn't read this morning's news, but we keep up with that, as you're well aware, Gerard, on a daily basis. And the newest scheme is to have Congress is looking at providing Medicaid expansion in those 12 states that have not expanded Medicaid.
Mississippi being one of them.
Mississippi's one of the 12, and they'll bypass the governors and the legislators, and they'll put a policy on the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, Federal Marketplace, whatever you want to call it. And that policy will be given out to people that are 138% or less of poverty level.
Which is what expansion does.
So the deal is that they're going to make me, I'm afraid, regulate that. And I'm saying that's not my calling in life. But we're watching it every day. Hopefully, if that does pass, and there's a lot of problems with it if it passes, because it's free, and then you got to tax the hospitals to pay for the difference. It's crazy, but.
And of course, in the infrastructure bill, there's a provision. The extended infrastructure bill, not the bipartisan one that looks like it's going to go and proceed for debate in the Senate. That happened yesterday. But the extended one would actually lower the age of Medicare to 60, and would also include vision, dental, and some other benefits in Medicare as well. And, of course, the private insurers are balking at that because it's a big part of their market is that 60 to 65 age range. Are you hearing anything from your carriers on that? It's a big problem.
It's a big problem from the carriers, and I will tell you this, that most of that's under the Medicaid side, which is run by the federal government.
Yeah.
But I have to administer a lot of their rules, which just burns me up. But that's just part of the job. And one of the things that we've looked at was they call them MSP, the multiple state plans that are proposed by Congress. And I wrote a long epistle to our two U.S. senators saying we can't afford to do that. I can't regulate things that are sold in other states without an interstate agreement, or what we kind of like an interlocal agreement between the city and the county, to let me regulate something that's in their state. So that presents a host of problems, and we just don't need that. It will destroy the market.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a move towards a single payer system and Medicare for all.
That's exactly right.
And you know who's going to pay for that, Gerard?
The taxpayers.
Taxpayers.
We'll have to subsidize the coverage just to keep the hospitals afloat.
We'll be paying the coverage to keep the hospitals afloat. Now, we do have a plan that we've worked on and presented to CISIO, which is the Center for Insurance Information Oversight, run by CMS, which is part of the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services under HSA, the Human Health Agency. So here's the plan. It's fairly simple. If we issue a policy, you have defined benefits, which the government doesn't like. In other words, you can only get $70. And the second thing is that we would use the rural hospitals as a provider. So if you were in a certain zip code, you'd have to go to that rural hospital.
I got you.
Which that helps them stay alive. It keeps rates low. You know what your benefits are. And you don't have a lot of wishy-washy out there about what I want is not what you're going to get. It's what's covered in your policy.
Yeah, totally understand. We got about a minute and a half left. Casualty insurance. Are you hearing anything, 40 seconds left, do you hear anything real quick from carriers that sell casualty insurance about climate change and how that might impact their rates and premiums? You've got a few seconds here.
Climate change is a big deal for us. We know that climate is changing. I don't know whether it's due to mankind or just what God has in plan for us, but it's been going on for a long time,
Gotcha.
and we monitor that. So I'll be in Kansas City for 3 days on climate change and resiliency in September.
Gotcha. Appreciate it, Commissioner Chaney. Thanks
Always
for
a
coming
pleasure
on.
to be on Super Talk. We love you guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Take
We'll
care.
be